In this lesson, we're going to divide numbers by powers of 10. In 32 and 6/10 divided by 1, we just keep in mind that any number divided by 1 is that number itself. So in this problem, we know that 32 and 6/10 divided by 1 is just 32 and 6/10. But when we get to the next one, where we're dividing by 10, remember when we multiplied by whole number powers of 10, we moved the decimal to the right because the value of the number increased. Well, when we divide a number by power of 10, the value will decrease. So we will take the decimal and move it instead of to the right, this time we'll move it to the left. Because we're dividing by 10 and 10 represents one place value column, we move that decimal only one time to the left. So it is now between the 3 and the 2. It is 3 and 26 hundredths. In the next example, we're dividing by 100. Well, 100 would represent two place value columns, so we will move the decimal 2 times to the left. The decimal ends up in front of the 3. So we have 326 thousandths. The 0 placeholder in front of the decimal is optional. You can put it if you'd like, but you can leave it off as well. In the last example, we're going to divide by 1,000. Well, 1,000 represents 3 place value columns. The 3 zeros remind us of that. So we move the decimal 3 times. In moving the decimal 3 times, we have an empty space that we're going to use a 0 to fill in as a placeholder. So the decimal should be in front of 0,326 in our final answer. So we would say that's 326 10,000ths. Keeping in mind what we remember about our exponents, any number to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So this is like 52 divided by 1. 52 divided by 1 would be 52. 10 to the power of 1 is the same as 10, which we remember means one place value column. So we will move the decimal one time to the left. Well, 52 is a whole number, so the decimal is not already there. As we've learned, the decimal starts behind the whole number, and we can move it one place to the left, so it now ends up between the 5 and the 2. We have 5 and 2/10. 10 to the power of 2 represents 100. That would represent 2 place value columns. So we take that decimal, which again will start behind 52, move it 2 times to the left. It now ends up in front of the 5. So our answer would be 52 hundredths. Since 10 to the power of 3 represents 1,000, that's 3 place value columns represented. So we're going to move the decimal 3 times to the left. Again, we have an empty spot, so we're going to use a 0 as a placeholder there, and the decimal would go in front of that 0. So the final quotient would be 52 thousandths. Here we have a couple more examples. Again, 10 to the power of 1 would be the same as 1. So 456 divided by 1 is 456. 10 to the power of 1 is the same thing as 10, which represents one place value column, so we move the decimal to the left one time. So the answer would be 45 and 6/10. 10 to the power of 2 represents 100. That's 2 place value columns. So we move the decimal 2 times to the left. The decimal is now between the 4 and the 5, so it's 4 and 56 hundredths. 10 to the power of 3 means 1,000. That represents 3 place value columns. The decimal again starts behind the whole number, and we move it 3 times to the left. So the product would be, the quotient would be 456 thousandths. Here we have 7 and 4/10 divided by 1 equals 7 and 4/10. 7 and 4/10 divided by 10 means we have to move the decimal one time to the left. So the quotient would be 74 hundredths. When we're dividing by 100, we're going to move the decimal 2 places. So the decimal would be there in front of that 0 that we're going to put in the empty spot, and that would give us 74 thousandths. In the last example, dividing by 1,000 would mean we'd have to move the decimal 3 places to the left. So this time we actually have to add 2 zeros as placeholders in the quotient, and we would get 74 ten thousandths.